Hello and welcome everyone. I hope this message finds you fit and fine. In previous class, we were talking about Panchayati Raj institutions. We talked about different committees and how they contributed in the way Panchayati Raj institutions we have in India now. We also talked about 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act. Now this is part 2 and let's start with finances, as no administrative setup can work without finances, right? So we have 4 points here. Number 1. A state legislature may authorize panchayats to levy, collect and appropriate taxes, duties, tolls and fees. Now, I am not using the word union legislature. Means parliament is not having this power. State legislature is having this power, right? So levy means you can impose, means panchayats can impose. Collect means you can collect. Appropriate means you can spend money from that collection, that revenue on your own, right? You will have flexibility in spending, right? Second is assigned to panchayat taxes, duties, tolls, fees levied, collected by state government. Now many students would think, sir, what is the difference between 1 and 2? Because there also you're talking about taxes, duties, tolls, and here also you're talking about taxes, duties, tolls. You just change these words, authorize and assign. The difference is these parts are new kind of setup, means new levy, new collection and new appropriation. But here we are talking about those taxes, those tolls, those fees which are actually collected by state government. Now they can be assigned to panchayat. I hope now you got the difference. This is the old one, this is the new one. Okay. Provide for making grant in aid for specific development projects. For example, we are giving 10 lakh rupees, say 20 lakh rupees. You can spend that and state government is not going to take back, right? And from where? These grants are going to be given by state legislature. From consolidated fund of state. Please remember, approval of these grants are not by state government, but by state legislature, because we are talking about consolidated fund of state. So permission of state legislature is mandatory if you want to spend money from consolidated fund of state, right? They can also institute a separate fund. From there, money can be created to different panchayats. So for financial matters, a state government gets recommendation from State Finance Commission, which is a constitutional body as per 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act. And this is constituted by Honorable Governor of that state. After every 5 years, constitute a Finance Commission to review the financial position of panchayat. Don't you think it is having the same mechanism like we have with respect to Finance Commission of India, Article 280, right? It shall make the following recommendations. Number 1, the distribution between the state and panchayat. So you can remember these 3 words: distribution, determination and grants. 3 areas on which State Finance Commission is going to play. So distribution means how money is going to be distributed between state government and these local bodies. Here we are talking about panchayats. Determination of taxes, duties, tolls, fees that may be assigned to panchayats. Such recommendation can be given, and let me tell you, this recommendation is not mandatory, right? Not binding over state legislature. Grant in aid to be provided to panchayats from consolidated fund of state. So these 3 areas, State Finance Commission is going to give recommendation. I hope you will remember that, right? UPSC is going to make statements from here. Now, I would say a question can be asked from here. State legislature may provide for the composition, qualification and manner of the selection of the members of State Finance Commission. What does it mean? It means on these 3 areas, Constitution has not said anything. No specifics are mentioned in our Constitution. So who is given power? State legislature is given power. So please remember, composition, qualification, manner of selection of members of State Finance Commission. Clear? You should remember it. Central Finance Commission can also give recommendation to the state. This is how you can enhance your financial resources and empower your local administration more. Now 11th schedule. So it mentions 29 functional items which are placed under the purview of panchayats. So these are the 11th schedule, 29 subjects. And by reading them, you should not think that panchayats have sole authority to actually work on these subjects. Because on most of the subjects, the state governments are the one who are working, who are having power. They have not devolved complete power with regard to these areas to the panchayats, because this is a voluntary, you can say, clause. A state legislature is going to decide, because panchayat should have ability, you can say administrative capability to do that, to deliver on such, you can say, venues. Compulsory and voluntary provisions, UPSC has asked questions from here, that is why please understand compulsory provisions first. Organization of Gram Sabha, that is must. And what is Gram Sabha? All of you know that by now. We talked about this in previous lecture, right? All the voters present in that particular gram means adult members who are part of electoral roll, right? Establishment of panchayat at 3 levels, right? Direct election on 3 levels, panchayat, village means intermediary and district level. But please remember, direct election for the member position, okay? Indirect election on 2 positions are compulsory, means immediate, you can say intermediate, it means we are talking about group of villages, and district level. When it comes to chairman of village panchayat, we discussed in previous class, matter is with state legislature, right? 21 years to be the minimum age, reservation of seats both for the members of SCs and STs at all 3 levels, reservation of 1/3 seats for women, we also discussed in previous class, fixing tenure 5 years, establishing state election commission. So these are mandatory provisions, okay? Sometimes students get confused, they say, oh sir, in our village, the chairperson of village panchayat, gram panchayat means pradhan, actually that's a direct election. So why you have not mentioned this in compulsory? Because we are talking about compulsory, means what must happen, and rest, yes, direct election can happen. So there's a difference between must happen and can happen, right? Now, voluntary provisions giving representation to the members of parliament and state legislature in these Panchayati Raj bodies. So it is a prerogative of state legislature. Providing reservation for backward classes. Please remember, for backward classes, Constitution has given this power to state legislature. Granting powers and authority to the panchayats to enable them to work as an autonomous body. That's a voluntary provision. So it depends on state legislature, how much power they want to devolve, right? To perform some or all 29 functions. This is what I was referring to when we were talking about 11th schedule, right? Granting financial powers to the panchayats to levy, collect these duties. Now, panchayat extension to scheduled areas. What does it mean? It means that the way 73rd constitutional amendment was made, it was not like it was viable for all grams or village habitations of India. For example, scheduled areas, tribal areas, they have their own traditions, practices. They may not be able to connect with this, setup of Panchayati Raj 3-tier system. For some people, this may be alien, right? But we need social and economic development activities should happen there. And that is why this PESA Act was made. And it's an important one. UPSC has asked questions over this. The provisions of Part 9, that is Panchayati Raj, not applicable to 5th scheduled areas. There can be a statement-wise question. Parliament can extend this part to such with other modifications and exceptions. Now, here you can say Parliament is having say with respect to scheduled areas. Means panchayats will come, but with certain modifications. Under these provisions, Parliament enacted this PESA. Now, these are the objectives of PESA, one by one. Provision for Part 9 to the scheduled areas, self-rule to the tribal population. They should not feel that this is an alien system. Village governance with participatory democracy, evolve participatory governance with traditional practices. So, just remember the keywords. Otherwise, this will seem bol bachan to you. Achhi baatein. Just remember the keywords. Self-rule, participatory governance, traditional practices, preserve and safeguard traditions and customs, empower panchayats with power conducive to tribal requirement, to prevent panchayats at higher level. It means we are talking about intermediate and district level, to assume powers with respect to the lower level, right? So this is the prevent one. Now, features of the Act. First of all, state legislation on the panchayat in the scheduled area shall be in consonance with customary law. Means the customs of that tribal community should be respected. Social and religious practices, traditional management of community resources. Means you cannot force panchayat laws on them. They should be in consonance with their traditional practices. A village shall ordinarily consist of habitation or group of habitation. Because in some areas, in tribal areas, what used to happen, what is happening even now, there are 6-7 houses in one patch. Then you go say 1 kilometer ahead, or say 800 meters ahead, then you will say 10 houses, then 25 houses after 1.5 kilometer. So in this case, we have to group these habitations, right? And it should be, the services of this act should be extended to all. Every village shall have Gram Sabha consisting of persons, Every Gram Sabha shall be competent to safeguard and preserve tradition and customs of the people and their cultural identity. Now, every Gram Sabha shall approve plan. Now, this is important. As per PESA, this is the power. Approve plans, programs, projects for socio-economic development. Gram Sabha is going to approve that. Okay. Responsible for identification of beneficiaries also of different poverty alleviation and other programs of government. Who is going to be the beneficiary? Every panchayat at village level shall be required to obtain Gram Sabha utilization certificate. If you have made a road, then you should actually have approval of Gram Sabha. People of the village will say, yes, a road has been built. So that is utilization certificate. Then only other grant is going to provide it to you. Otherwise, it will not be possible. Don't you think it will engage more people with this administration? Participatory governance, right? The state government may nominate such, now this is important, may nominate such scheduled tribes which have no representation in panchayats at intermediate level and district level. Please remember, this nomination power is given with respect to intermediate level and district level, not village level nomination. But such nomination shall not exceed 1/10 of the total members to be elected to that panchayat. Means we are talking about intermediate and district level. Reservation of these tribes cannot be more than 1/10. In this area, we are talking about PESA. Reservation of seats in scheduled areas in every panchayat shall be in proportion to population. Okay, because here we were talking about the nomination part. Okay, and when I'm talking about here reservation, I'm talking about reservation for elected seats. Okay. Now, however, the reservation of scheduled tribes shall not be less than 1/2 of the total number of seats, because we are talking about tribal area, right? All the seats of chairperson of panchayats at all the levels shall be reserved for the scheduled tribes. This can also be a question statement. Clear? Gram Sabha or panchayats at the appropriate level shall be consulted before making acquisition of land. And this is important. Please remember, in case of acquisition as well as rehabilitation, say of Gram Sabha and panchayat becomes important after this PESA. However, the actual planning and implementation of the project, it happens at this level of state. Recommendation of Gram Sabha becomes important when it comes to license, mining, lease, minerals of that particular area. There can be a question from here. Prior recommendation of Gram Sabha when it comes to exploitation of minor minerals for auction from this area. So don't you think it is empowering the local community? A state legislature shall ensure, means such power need to be given by state legislature. Number 1, when it comes to regulation, restriction of sale or consumption of any intoxicant. Ownership of minor forest produce, power to prevent alienation of land from scheduled areas. Means land cannot be taken away easily. Power to manage village market. So state legislature will give power to these panchayats. Now finances of panchayat. So now this part is, you can say, this is about why Panchayati Raj institutions are deficient of resources after so many years of independence. Second, Administrative Reforms Commission of India. So it summarized this, what is happening. So as of now, you should know what are the resources of funds for these Panchayati Raj institutions. Number 1, grants, which are recommended by Finance Commission of India. That is Article 280. Second is devolution of grants from state on the recommendation of State Finance Commission by state government, Article 243I. Apart from this, loans and grants by state government. Apart from this, there are certain government programs, right? Program specific allocation under centrally sponsored program, additional central assistance. and internal resource generation, for example, text and non-text. Now the point is, this internal resource generation, it is quite weak. This text and non-text revenues are weak, and that is why our Panchayati Raj institutions are deficient and they're not having that much flexibility or decision-making power for any developmental work. Kerala, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, they have done significantly well when it comes to empowering Panchayati Raj institutions, but still there are a lot of scope for improvement. One can draw following broad conclusions. First, जैसे आपको बताया, like I told you, weak internal resource generation. Panchayats are heavily dependent on grants from union and state. Wherever there is dependence, it means it is going to impact the efficiency, effectiveness. A major portion of grants, both from union as well as state governments, they are scheme specific. For example, if some villager has come before this Panchayat and they are saying, sir, we need this is what we are facing, trouble we are facing, and there is no scheme to actually sort out this trouble. So you can say that Panchayats have their hands tight because they are dependent on these grants, these specific schemes. There is very less area to actually help beyond that. In view of their own tight fiscal position, that is why state governments are having their own tight fiscal position. That is why they are not devolving more funds to this Panchayat. As state governments are saying that most of the functions which are mentioned in Schedule 11, 29 functions, for example, education, healthcare, water supply, sanitation, all of them, they are being taken care by state government. So that is why state government is having more money also. They don't want to actually devolve more because they are not having that much surplus. Now, reasons for ineffective performance. So these are the reasons which we can sum up now. Lack of adequate devolution means not much power is given. Excessive control by bureaucracy, tight nature of funds, or you can say overwhelming dependency on government funding, poor infrastructure, creation of parallel bodies. So these are the reasons why they are actually not performing well. Now just attempt this question. It is quite easy one. Which statement is not correct regarding Gram Sabha? It is a body consisting of persons registered in electoral rolls of a village. You have to identify not correct. It is a village assembly consisting of all registered voters. Power determined by central government. This is wrong because power determined by the state government, right? So I hope now it is clear to you, right? See you in the next video. Till then, keep learning, keep growing. If you have any doubt, you can drop me a message on shashank.powerbean. That is my personal Insta handle.